Hi, so I'm going to be talking about the epithelial tissues now. So the first epithelial tissue that we'll be looking at is the simple squamous epithelium. And so here you can see that it's one single layer of squamous cells. And these squamous cells are fairly flat and pancake-like. And you can see that the little cytoplasm in the cell surrounding the nuclei, and it facilitates diffusion of gases and small molecules, and it provides smooth and protective surface. And it lines the inner surface of our blood vessels, the mesothelial lining of body cavities, capillaries, alveoli, glomeruli, and tissues where rapid diffusion is needed. Here is another look at it, and you can see the cell in the nucleus. The next one we're going to look at is simple cuboidal epithelium. And so this one, as it says, cuboidal, small little squares is what it resembles, and they line the lumen. And the lumen is that empty space kind of in between these cells. And the function of this is it's specialized for diffusion and absorption, and it lines the surface of various ducts of glands and organs, and it provides a layer of protection for foreign particles. And it has a central nucleus, so it's easy to identify through that. If you see a central nucleus in the epithelial cell, you can kind of tell, especially by the shape, that that's a cuboidal, simple cuboidal epithelium. And it is in your respiratory bronchiole, the covering of your ovaries, and small ducts of kidneys, pancreas, and salivary glands in the kidney tubules cells, and in it facilitates absorption and transport of filtered substances, and absorption and transport of many substances. So this is another look at that simple cuboidal epithelium. Next, we're going to do simple columnar epithelium. And so these cells have fairly regular column-like cells. They're longer cells than the cuboidal or the squamous cells, but they may or may not have cilia. And you can see here that this is basically its function is to secrete mucus into the lumen, and it's for the absorption and the protection and transportation of molecules. So it lines the small intestine and absorbs nutrients from the lumen, and it lines many ducts of the many exocrine glands as a secretory epithelium. It lines the stomach and the uterine cervix. So if you look again, you can see these cells with the little nuclei inside of them. The next one we're going to look at is the pseudostratified columnar epithelium with cilia. So the pseudostratified has longer cells like simple columnar, but the nuclei are interspersed at different levels. So you can see that these nuclei aren't all along the same level, they're kind of all over the place. And you can see the cilia down here. And so the nuclei are interspersed at different levels, and the cells aren't completely stratified. And the function is the goblet cells of the epithelium secrete mucus to trap particles and prevent them from traveling down the respiratory tract. So this is mostly in the respiratory tract, which is your nose, your trachea, and your bronchi, and your respiratory airways. So the cilia are on the apical surface, and they move fluid in a constant direction. So they move all together synchronously. And so you can see again, here is a picture of a few of the cells, and you can see these long pseudostratified cells, and then they have the nuclei right inside of it. The next one we're going to look at is the stratified squamous epithelium. And so the stratified squamous epithelium does have an kind of thin and flat but layered. So it looks like kind of, the simple squamous, but this is stratified. There's many layers to it now. And you can see that the nucleus is here, and these cells, they look like little pancakes stacked on top of one another. So they're flat but layered, and it protects underlying tissues and areas subjugated to abrasion. And the keratinized type forms the outermost layer of your skin, which prevents water loss, but the non-keratinized part forms the lining of your mouth, your esophagus, your anus, and your vagina. And so the location is the outermost layer of your skin, or the lining of your mouth, esophagus, anus, or vagina. And this is a picture of these cells, and you can see the nuclei inside of these cells. In our last two, we have transitional epithelium, and so this is an image of it, and you can see those nuclei and all those they're not the same size, but they're fairly round cells. And so the function is it stretches readily in order to accommodate the fluctuation of volume of the liquid in organs. So this is very common in like the urinary tract, because the organs that are subjugated to desertion or stretching as urine passes through and fills them. So it's common in the urinary system, the lines, the uterus, the bladder, and the proximal part of your urethra. So basically the function is just to stretch. So it basically allows, your bladder to fill up. These cells stretch. And yeah, you can see here the nucleus and the cells. And finally, we're going to talk about the exocrine epithelium, and specifically the sebaceous gland. And this is the image that I got from that. And you can see that all in here is that sebaceous gland, and this is a cell in a nucleus. And then the function of this is it specifically targets organs for their secretion. So exocrine glands secrete hormones, and it's unicellular in structure. So it creates secretion which gets released through a ductal system onto an epithelial surface. So your sebaceous glands are usually attached to hair follicles. So when you secrete, it'll come out through this area on your epidermis, like on outside of your skin. So the location of, exocrine epithelium would be your gastrointestinal tract, in the walls of the stomach and the intestines, or outside of it in your salivary glands, pancreas, liver. Secretion is under the control of your nerves and hormones, but the sebaceous glands are located, like I said, attached to your hair follicles and on the surface of the skin. So this is what we were looking at, and you can kind of see down here that this is all different. And it's all a little bit bigger, and so this is the actual gland itself, and then here is an image of a cell and what that cell looks like with the nucleus. So thank you, and hope you have a great rest of your day.